everything, and mentally you're getting broken down every time. Like, you get to your feet against the cage, he lifts and slams you, you're like, all right, I'm at square one again. That's a mentally draining. Like, you're in a video game, your power level is just dropping.
Like growing up, like say like for example, when you were in college, right? Obviously before you became a professional fighter, did you ever get in like bar fights and like that? And did people ever like, like he grew up wrestling bears and like after the fact, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Well, people never knew. Like, when I was in college, it was so I went to OSU and we got in bar fights here and there. Like, I wasn't one of the guys that would like go out with my teammates and like we gotten punished for getting in fights. Like, our coach wasn't a guy who was like, you're out on the campus partying and getting in fights. Like, you're gonna get in trouble for that. So we tried not to, but obviously there were times where you get in scuffles or like guys come up to you drunk and bump into you on purpose. And then it's like, I'm 5'5" on a good day with good shoes on. So it's like, I'm a little guy. So they're either going to come pick on me, even with cauliflower ear. Like, anybody thinks they're a tough guy when they got liquid courage in them. So, I mean, I've been in fights and stuff like that, but it's not like I never went into, like, we never went out thinking like, oh man, let's go fight some dudes tonight. Like, it was always like, yeah, let's get up and see what we can take home. You know,
Right.
and that was like college. That was like college thought process.
Yeah.
So like, I knew guys who would go out and like just wait to fight somebody. Like, they would wait for somebody to bump into like, hey, what the like that.
Right,
Like,
right.
we had guys like that, but that wasn't that wasn't my mentality.
Right.
I'm super easygoing. Like, I'm not a guy who like I get like I'll flip a switch. Like, there's certain things that piss me off, but like I'm super easygoing. I just like to go out, have a good time, and but yeah, I mean, fights here and there. But it was usually
they
like,
come to you.
yeah,
If you have to defend.
yeah, like
yourself, right?
they give me a reason to have to fight
Right,
them, like
right.
just to like protect myself basically. But I mean, most of the fights were like house party fights where it's like 30 on 30, throwing beer bottles across the street, and then everybody just piles together. Like, those were the fun days.
Oh,
Those
yeah.
are the fun ones because you didn't have to worry about guns back then. It was all just like, hey, let's go these dudes up because they're talking. And if we win, we win. If we lose, we lose. Whatever. We'll just keep
Keep
drinking.
partying, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Matt and I went to college together, and we had many of those days.
Nice.
Every weekend.
Yeah, every weekend. But you know what's even funnier? Like, like Matt's done martial arts. I did MMA. Like when Mike Cannon was.
Oh, yeah.
And then, so we would go out, and then people would be like, "Oh, are you guys just fighting people?" And it's so funny because it's the complete opposite.
Yeah.
People that are like training and doing like mixed martial arts or wrestling or some sort of like
Skill. Yeah.
The last thing I want to do is fight somebody.
Yeah,
I'm trying to have a good time, bro. Like, I already trained. We're having a good time.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you guys just fighting everybody? No, dude. We're a bunch of jerk offs. Like,
It's
we're
so
jerk offs in
annoying.
our own way.
Yeah.
We're not going out looking for stuff. Dude.
Exactly.
It's just, it's so annoying.
The fun part is though, when the guy that is looking for the trouble,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Gets his ass whooped.
Yeah.
Because he's seen too many movies or whatever.
Jean-Claude
Yeah.
Van Damme
Right,
movies.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he like f with us, and all of a sudden he's laying on his back.
yeah.
With the
They're
sand.
like, oh, that YouTube did for.
Yeah, right. That was always a satisfying thing because
Oh,
for whatever
sure.
reason the always came to Ross.
100%.
I mean, and like we definitely like took pleasure in humbling them at the time. You know what I'm saying? So
Hell yeah.
as anybody does, you know what I mean? But like it was never like I'm gonna go prey on that person or pick on that dude. It was always just making an example of the
100%.
Just trying to have a good time.
Yeah.
Now, backtracking a little bit, you were raised, and I said earlier, just with wrestling, right?
Mhm.
And there's two things that I regret in life. One, not staying for an extra beer, and not sticking with wrestling. I wrestled for a little bit, and that's my biggest regret in life. I think it mentally makes you tougher as a person.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing that can stop you. I mean, obviously the practices are grueling. I didn't get to watch the full movie yet because I came across it pinned, by the way. It's pretty sweet. And it's cool. It's awesome. Kind of
Yeah.
brings you back. It's like the
Oh, dude, it's
nitty-gritty,
wild. Every
that's-
time I watch it, I'm just like, damn, dude, that's crazy. Like, that was my life. Because that was 20 years ago now. So I'm like, when I watch that, it brings me back to that like nostalgia of like, dude, high school wrestling, and like brings me right back because I can remember every single match that happened in that movie, like every scenario, every interview, and I'm just like, damn, I'm like, dude, that's why it's cool. We didn't even plan that. That was just a guy that we knew who was a fireman. His brother was at Ohio University doing his master's project, and it was like filmography or something. And so he wanted to do a documentary, and he just started filming us throughout that season. Then it turned into a movie, and like luckily for them, I went on to do well in college and then started fighting and things like that. So it's like people ask me about it, and I'm like, oh man, that like those guys are awesome. They did a great job. They got little tidbits from every single person involved in that season. Like I thought it came out really well, but it like literally played out perfectly for what they needed for a documentary. So like, I mean, if I would have gone out there and lost my senior year to not win 4 state titles or something, like it could have easily went into shambles, but it was like the perfect setup for a documentary. And I was like, man, that's cool that it's actually recorded. Like everything, like that whole year is recorded on film, and there's like the background stuff, and like we do take, I don't know if you saw into it, but we do take them to feed the animals and
I didn't
shit.
see that part.
Yeah, it's so some of that's actually in there of like wrestling the bear and like my skit from Colbert Report and some little stuff like that. But yeah, it's like they did a really good job with it, and it literally just started as his senior project. So it was cool.
And then my other question is, you know, it seemed like, correct me if I'm wrong, like the high school you went to, I mean, it's wrestling world,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
definitely.
or is it the area that you live? There was like hardcore wrestling, right?
Yeah.
And obviously Midwest is big in wrestling,
Mhm.
you know? How was it? Because I had a buddy of mine that I went to high school with, and then he ended up going to Iowa
Yeah.
for wrestling and couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
Mutual guy that I knew, whatever. I just know that high school was tough. I had my buddies like having maybe an orange or drinking water.
Yeah.
And I'm over there just smoking weed like a scumbag, you know, just being a loser. But then the transition from high school to college, and then now you're at the big school, man.
Yeah.
This is it, you know. How was that training elevated? Was it a lot? Were you, I mean,
I think since I went to a high school that was like top 2 in the country every year during that time period, it was one of those things that we were already prepped because it was a, private school, prep school. Like we're prepping for the next level. And obviously college is different because you're on your own. You got to take care of your own schoolwork. You got to take care of your own dorm or apartment or whatever. Like that's your first taste of like being on your own if you lived with your parents in high school. So you're at a stage where there is a learning curve in college for wrestling and for life in general. But high school at my school at St. Ed's, that was like you're kind of already learning that and you're already prepping that. So that's why I feel like our high school was so tough in that sense is because it's already prepping you for the next step. And other than like some little adjustments and things like that, I felt like it prepped me well to step right in college because I was originally going to redshirt and then I ended up winning a wrestle off and then starting freshman year. So as a true freshman, I was like, man, I'm going, like there you take your lumps early on, but I felt like I adapted pretty well and then was able to get to where, get on the podium at the end of the freshman year. But I feel like high school and my dad's mentality, like there were even at the school with a lot of good kids and a lot of state champs, like nobody did what my brother and I did. Like there was nobody. First, we were both 4-time state champs, but the work ethic that we had, whether we wanted to or not, we held each other accountable and, we worked hard. Like obviously we had the basement gym and my dad was like, no screwing around, like outside of the season or like you can go out with your friends, you can go hang out, do this or that. But if it interferes with, what matters, you're cut off basically. So we were kind of already in that stage of life where like, hey, this matters because this is going to pay for our college. This is going to get us to the next step. So I think we were already kind of being prepped for college. And, obviously college is like, that's your choice whether you're going to be disciplined or not. So, I took it. I still had a ton of fun in college, but at that level in the Big Ten and Division I, it's like, if you're screwing around, you're just going to get your ass beat.
no, I mean,
So it's like
absolutely.
it's hard to like my sophomore year of college was probably my toughest year bracket wise. Like that was one of the toughest brackets in the history of the sport. And it was a year that I had like not taken as serious as I should have. And that's probably the year I regret because I was so close. Like every match, like lost to Brent Metcalf in the quarters 3-2. Like shouldn't have shouldn't have been messing around partying like I was, but still worked hard in the room. But obviously, all that outside shit catches up. So, I mean, no matter how hard you train, if you're not doing everything else right, it's gonna, it's gonna drag you down a little bit.
Absolutely.
So they say the greatest champions in all different organizations in MMA, all of them come from a wrestling background, right? That
For the most part.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
I mean, it's the first ever heavyweight champion, Mark Coleman, was a
Yeah.
dominant wrestler. You know what I mean? They say the best pound for pound fighter nowadays, John Jones,
Yeah.
wrestler. You know what I mean? Another gentleman that we had brought up before, just because you guys both wrestled bears, is
Yeah.
Khabib, right?
Yeah.
Can you please break down, because I've been wondering this. I'd love to know somebody like yourself that's just dominated so many fights with grappling. You know what I mean? What is it about these Russians that they're so dominant? Like, what is their style? What can you assess from him and his performance, or what do they do? Because growing up, your dad, had you training hard since an early
Yeah.
age, much like Khabib's dad. You know what I mean? So there's similarities. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I'm just curious to get your perspective, because he always has this aura about him. You know what I mean? And he's over in Russia doing his thing. Could you please like kind of break that down, or how you assess that?
I I have a ton of respect for him just because of not just because of what he's done, but how he is as a coach now and how he's a leader and he leads his other guys who are coming up with him like Islam and Umar and all the other guys that train underneath him or train at his school. But you went back to that where you mentioned our fathers, and I think that's a huge thing because his dad was the same way with him, and his dad was, there were some ways like even when he acted a certain way during all the Connor stuff and the lead up and how he acted after, like his dad was not happy with him about all that, just like not being respectful and things like that, and it's I think it goes back to like your discipline level and how you are raised as a person. And I think that's the one thing I respect about him the most is that. And he carries himself that way even to this day, and he's not fighting anymore. But I think the biggest thing with a lot of the Russians or a lot of the guys in that part of the world, like the Chechnyan guys and things like that, is um the MMA wrestling is so different that it's like no matter how good of a wrestler you are, whether it's freestyle, folk style, Greco-Roman, you have to learn that ability to take a guy down and smother him. And he perfected that early on. Like he was the first person we really saw. Like you see Mark Coleman and he had the great American wrestling and heavy ground and pound. Like his ground and pound is, that's still stuff that I look up to and I try to implement in my fight game. And that's what I used a lot of early on in my career was literally just like, okay, how did Mark Coleman do it? And then like Urijah Faber and guys like that, it was like they implemented some of the old school pride ground and pound that way too. But when you look at the way Khabib's guys are all doing it, it's all you take this guy down and you melt him. You melt him there. You make him struggle so hard. He's carrying your weight and his own weight and your wrist control, your different controls. You're not always just trying to get a submission really quick. You're literally trying to cook that guy under there and wear him down. Then the ground and pound becomes easier. Then the submissions come easier. So the way that he went about doing all that, it wasn't just like this fast pace, I'm going to take you down, submit you. It was I'm going to I'm gonna grind you down, take you down, beat you up, get you tired. Like everybody has a chance on the feet, right? It's 50-50 shot. No matter how good your boxing is, kickboxing, Muay Thai, your defense, like anybody can get caught. But the ability to set up your shots like he was, like he would set up his shots. Sometimes it was ugly, sometimes it was smooth, but he always had a good setup and he always got himself in there, get to the legs, and he wasn't going to give up. Some of those guys, if you take a shot and the guy defends with the hips right away, guys will just let go and go back to strikes. He was like, hey, if I want to get this takedown, I'm going to get it. And that's one thing that I always like kind of took from his career, just watching him from the outside, is that he wasn't just going to take a shot and then go back to punches. Like if he's shooting, he's not stopping until that takedown happens. Then that guy's going to be like, oh, I got to get up. Now that guy's fighting just to get up to his feet, and he's defensive that whole time, breaking him down cardio wise. And that's just a lot of that comes from cardio as well. Like you have to wrestle in those positions nonstop. And after like seeing some of the videos and stuff and training with some of the other guys that have trained with him, I think that's what they do. They prepare for that. You just take a guy down and smother him, and you break it down to the point where, they're too tired to get up. And then that's when the finishes usually come. But I mean, even some of his fights where he didn't get the finish, but he was able to just grind, beat the guy up, Like, that guy's exhausted trying to get to his feet, and Khabib's talking to him, talking to Dana through the cage. Like, it's just like that's just training. It just comes down to training and training harder than the other guy. And it just all goes back to that discipline and mentality.
Yeah. So the endurance was obviously a major factor, right? The cardio, and they say, wrestlers have the best cardio. You know what I mean? The best endurance. So a fair weather fan of MMA might see Khabib and just be like, oh, well, I don't see anything spectacular, you know what I mean? Like, but they don't really understand. You,
Yeah.
as one of the best in the world, can assess that and be like, no, people don't really understand what he's doing is so phenomenal. You know what I mean? Especially when you're fighting the best in the world. You know, it's like I'm sure you like
You're making other guys who are in the top 5, top 10 just look like it's an easy match, basically. And that's what he did for the longest time. And it was even like Justin Gaethje, he's such a dangerous guy, dangerous fighter. And we all have the same manager. So it's like, I've known a lot of these guys. Like, Gaethje was in World Series of Fighting at 155 when I was at 145. We were both the champs at the same time. Like, he was a guy that I watched. I'm like, Jesus, dude, like, this guy, like, he puts people away. Like, his leg kicks.
Dude,
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Man.
And he does it from close range, too. It's not like way out.
It's like,
yeah.
oh
And it's like,
God,
that's a guy where I was like, man, like, this is a guy that can really hurt Khabib. Like, he can really, and he has a wrestling background, which may not be as like good as Khabib's wrestling, but the way that he can strike and, at least maybe defensively wrestle to keep Khabib off his legs a little bit. Like, I thought that fight was going to go a whole different way, but when Khabib took him down and just like melted him, and it was just like, that was surprising to watch, but it just showed like how strong his grappling really was, because he was able to get him down and literally just like took all the life out of him and finished him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just really impressive how he does it. And like, a lot of my career was based off of takedowns and ground and pound. And I feel like I tried to implement a lot of the things he did, because the guys that I did beat like that, they would say like, man, your conditioning is crazy. Like, I don't know how you could just wrestle me and like smother me for 25 minutes. And like, to the fair weather fan, like you said, it may look boring, but there's so much going on during all these exchanges on the ground, even if it's wrist control or like small punches or just positioning things or like hip pressure. Nobody really sees that unless you feel it. And then you're like, oh, it makes sense why these guys can't get up.
Right. They have no idea just how hard that is to be that position. You know what I mean? People are like, people drunk at the bar.
Dude, that's
what are they doing?
Get up,
Dude,
get up.
Dude, do you have any idea?
No, this guy just trained for 12 weeks to lay on his bed and not get up.
Exactly. That's what I always laugh
you can yell through the TV and sleep. Why are you sitting in his corner? Tell him. Like,
well, dude, that's how my dad is sometimes. Like, dude, I don't know why the guy just didn't get up. He's laying there on the bottom. I'm like, dude. I'm like, you know how wrestling goes. Like, this is fighting. It's the same way. He's like, well, yeah, the guy was just trying to do submissions on the bottom. I'm like, yeah, because he was like spent. He couldn't get up. So he resorted to submissions on the bottom and then get finished that way. Like, people just like, especially if you never fought. Like, if you never fought or never did like any combat sport or like one-on-one sport, like, you don't realize like how heavy someone else is when they're forcing down on you. And you're trying to get up from like your back's on the mat and their weight plus all their pressure, like, it's hard.
And you're tired.
And
you're just like,
mentally. So you get even more tired. It's not just like running on the cardio, like on the elliptical, or I mean, like mentally, you exhausted as well.
Time under tension, like, that's one of the things that we talk about at Westside Barbell is like time under tension and things like that. Is like, if you don't build that up. Like, say you're fighting Khabib, and he's going to get a takedown on you. Like, the Poirier fight's a good example, because Poirier, like, fought him off for a long time, and he still got, like, gassed to the point where, all right, I'm going to get choked here. Like, I can't do anything.
He was exhausted from
like,
constant
my arms, my legs, my lungs, like, everything. And mentally, you're getting broken down every time. Like, you get to your feet against the cage, he lifts and slams you. You're like, all right, I'm at square one again. That's a mentally draining. Like you're in a video game, your power levels just drop.
And you can see it sometimes. You can see it in people's faces,
Yeah.
dude. Like they get hit and they're like, dude, back, like, come on, like,
Yeah, like you're up, you're on your elbows, you're getting punched in the head, and you're trying to come up. Then you're getting your legs
then
sucked
shoot,
back
yeah.
out. Yeah, it's like, dude.
Let me ask you a question. How would you prepare for something like that? You know what I mean? Like this is just obviously a dream scenario.
for
But I'm
sure.
just curious to know like your perspective on how you would, you know what I mean? How you combat that, knowing.
I would wrestle. Oh, I mean, I do wrestle a lot, but I would wrestle a lot, and I would prepare to be taken down, and prepare my cardio for being able to get up if I do get taken down. Like this would be completely hypothetical because he's way bigger. Even when he fought at 155, like he was like a 200-pound guy cutting down. Like Khabib's a big guy, but that doesn't mean that that's why he was good. Like his technique was good. Like he would roll with guys like Rockhold and like, put it on him. Like he's legit. Like he's really good. And that's where Islam gets a lot of that from, is having to compete with him all those years. And
Islam's big too, man.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Like, I seen him in
Those
person. I
dudes
was
are
like,
fucking.
dude, what the hell?
I don't know how, but those Russian guys can
Yeah.
cut weight and do it well to where they
Yeah.
can compete really well.
Right.
But I would basically do my whole training camp of, obviously they'd have to be guys who are good on top, because like I pride myself on being good on top. If I get a takedown, like I'm not letting this dude up unless I let him up, So it'd have to be people where like, hey, if you take me down, like you have to be able to hold me down. Like I would train a lot of that during my camp, but I wouldn't get away from my own takedown training as well. Because if I get a takedown and I can capitalize there, like how often did he get taken down? I don't think he ever got taken down. Maybe
No.
once or twice
Did he
his
even
whole
lose a
career.
round? Like
I
I
don't
think,
think
I
so.
think he might have lost one round. they
One
said.
round.
But I forgot who it was with. But I think they was maybe one. They said.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it wasn't Connor. I don't remember, but I think they said maybe one, and that's like
Yeah.
that's like a close,
Exactly.
like maybe.
But that's the thing, is like if you have a guy like that who's never been obviously he trains like getting up off the mat, but if you have a guy who's never been taken down or taken down once or twice in their career, and you're gonna take this dude down and he reverses you, that blows a lot of guys up too, because they're like, oh, I tried, now I'm on the bottom again.
Yeah.
So some guys, they'd be afraid to grapple. Like I would go in there because I'm a grappler though. So a striker obviously isn't going to want to grapple a guy who's that good.
Right.
But my mentality would be like, you have to kind of fight fire with fire, or else you're gonna get taken down. If you're not on the attack, he is. So that's kind of the wrestling mentality. That's what I would have to go in there with.
Yeah, I was dying to ask you that just because you guys are obviously completely different from I was from Russia, but just
Yeah.
the similarities with your dads,
Oh,
you
yeah.
guys early age, the bear, and,
Yeah.
and just coming up as just like dominant wrestlers, you know what I mean? Nobody's really been able to really break down, how it really is, you know
For
what I mean,
sure.
from a perspective, but you have so many similarities, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? So I was
Your cardio would have to be, especially if it was a 5-round fight, like your cardio would have to be really good, because wrestling, even if it's because you got to think there's some resting a little bit in fights. Like if you get to your feet, you can kind of circle and move, but when you're in the exchanges, there's no break, like no cardio break. So like you'd have to be prepared to grapple and wrestle for 25 minutes to prepare for a fight like that, especially two like high-level grapplers going at it together.
no, for sure.
Especially at your level already, training for a fight, I'm sure, is grueling.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, then you're like doubling down on the whole. Having someone on top of you, then changing probably a fresh guy, and then a fresh
Yeah.
guy, and then a fresh guy. Like that's grueling. I mean, I did it like
Oh,
an
yeah.
amateur level, just not even to that close. I'm not even trying to compare to you, but like that sucked, dude.
Yeah. Oh, it
Like,
does.
But like,
And that's the thing too, is like if you're training for a striker, obviously you're still going to train your grappling, because you don't just cut anything off just for that fight, but you're going to train more in like your striking defense, or like setting up your shots, because they're going to try and keep their range with their striking. So a fight like that, you're like, oh, well, I'm going to have a little more of a break, at least from like the tension of wrestling and grappling, because I'm maybe on my feet or setting up my shot here and there. And they may be fully committed on like their defense for the first or second attempt. But if you break them down, that third and fourth attempt is going to get weaker and weaker. So then you're at that point of like, all right, well, I got this against this striker. The first round, everybody's good. Second round, I'll break them down. Third round, just keep chipping away. Kind of like, Belal in his last fight. Like that's what you do against a striker who has good defense, because like Edwards has good takedown defense, and he has taken some guys down as well. So like full well-rounded MMA fighters aren't just going to be one thing. Like you have to be prepared. And in a 25-minute fight like that, you have to be ready to go the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, Blau, you know, we're good friends with him,
Yeah.
and you know him very well. I mean, obviously, he just constantly he's a grinder. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So I mean, even like certain fights, like you know, wrestling or say fighting you, or like even a Blau or anybody, obviously, know your conditioning is gonna be on par. So and then especially fighting a wrestler, I was talking to my brother earlier today. He's like, I go, dude, wrestlers are great for him. I mean, we talked about just touched on earlier because you guys can dictate the fight.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if you want to take it to the ground, we can go there. You
Yeah.
can go there.
For sure.
And then if a guy's more of a stand-up guy, he's concerned on the shot, but then you can fake it with a shot and come to the top. Like so,
Exactly.
like wrestling is
You can open your striking up a lot more against guys who are afraid of the takedown.
yes, and I think wrestling is so important outside of like any wrestling itself,
Yeah.
but like just in life in general.
Mhm.
I like I mentioned, I think it's such it ingrains you in just being a like tougher for life when things are coming at you
Yeah.
because you already been through it on the mats, and it's like okay,
Definitely.
we're gonna get through this. We're not gonna break. And I always like that's one thing that I always pride myself in thinking about wrestling, and which I kept into it. I'm not saying I'm weak minded, but it just toughens you up. There's nothing that's
For
gonna stop
sure.
you.
Yeah. There's a lot of things where you figure out you're able to figure out a solution instead of playing like victim mentality. Because in wrestling, you play victim mentality, you're gonna lose over and over again. You have to find that solution. Like you get taken down, okay, you go back to the middle, start on the whistle, and you're coming back to your feet. Like that's you lose a match, you have to come right back 30 minutes later and win the next one to stay in the tournament. Like there's a lot of things with wrestling that are just mental toughness, discipline, and if you don't have that, it can kind of be ingrained in you through wrestling. If you wrestle long enough, you have to, because nobody's going to keep wrestling if they're just getting beat up all the time and they don't change anything. Because like if you do that, you're just an idiot.
Yeah, you're
Because
just an
wrestling
asshole.
sucks even when you're winning. Wrestling is like the hardest thing, and it's like you don't get awarded for it. It's not like you don't get crazy NIL deals like football or basketball. Like wrestling, you do because you love it. Like you love getting your hand raised, and you know you love the one-on-one competition. Like you really like wrestling is it's a sport. It really is, because it's not a sport where you're like, oh man, I love practice today. This is gonna be so fun.
Yeah,
You're like, God, I gotta wrestle for an hour and a half straight today or something crazy. You're like,
Sweaty ass
you know, you're
feet.
gonna get
Yeah.
tired.
Oh, yeah.
Like no matter, even if you're the best guy in the room, which usually, like if you're the best guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. So it's like wrestling's always a challenge, no matter what, which makes it great. But also, it's like mentally, you have to build that mentality for it.
Speaking of challenges, Ross, give them the quote that you say, champions.
Oh, the champions surround themselves around champions.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And with that being said, you did a lot of training with Team Alpha Male,
Mm-hmm.
correct? Like, what was that experience like with Uriah and Cody and the guys over there? A lot of stud wrestlers, obviously. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
could you talk about your experience?
Yeah. I mean, Team Alpha Male was awesome. It was basically the whole first half of my career was there. I started crazy, like backstory was I finished wrestling in college. Uriah was like, he was really good at recruiting wrestlers into MMA. So he was like, he called me one day. He got my number from I think Mike DeSabato or somebody who knew me and also knew him. He's like, hey man, you want to come out, you know, come and train. I heard you want to get into MMA. And at the time I was like, yeah, I think it'd be awesome. Like I wasn't a guy who was like training in boxing or anything yet. I just wrestling, no jiu-jitsu, no other background. So I was like, I mean, I don't know if I'll like it or not. Like I haven't been hit, like willingly hit in the face, like in a street fight or something. Yeah. But like never willingly been hit in the face and been like, all right, let's go. So I didn't know if I would even like the combativeness of it. So I went out there and trained for a little while with them, and it was when Faber fought Aldo, because that's when they first flew me out there, and I watched Faber fight Aldo, and Mendez won on that card. I think Benavidez won on that card, but Uriah got his whole like thigh just
He was on crutches.
oh dude, he couldn't walk for a long time. It was bad, like literally nastiest leg kicks I've ever seen, and like that was like I grew to love Aldo too, because like the guy's just he was a great champion. He was a respectful guy, like killer in the cage, but not like a malicious dude, like not like the new era of guys like Connor and like people who really like just like talk about your whole being and your family and everything else. Like, it's just a whole different world now. But back then it was just like you talk about the with the dude until you fight, and then you shake hands, like, wish him well and move on. Like, that's how Aldo was. So I was like, man, like watching that was my very first fight live that I had been to. And I was like, that was sick. And then ended up moving out there, trained with those guys for like a month, and took my first pro fight, and I was like hooked. I was like, man, this is sick. But training with those guys was familiar mentality because a lot of them was wrestling background, like Mendez, Benavidez, Danny Castillo, Dillashaw, Faber. There were some other wrestlers who were in and out of there as well. Like Josh Emmett started the same time I started there. And then I got Cody to move out there in like 2013 or 2014. And so like we had all these guys who were like ex-wrestlers just fighting, and like Mendez, Benavidez, Dillashaw was still coming up when I came in there. He was just going to the Ultimate Fighter. But Faber, like all those guys, like they were all established in the WEC back then, and I was like, man, these guys are awesome. Like they're literally doing it on their own because we had no coach. We had Master Tong, who was our Muay Thai coach or pad holder. Other than that, everything was like, hey, you work with this guy on this. Like we had good jiu-jitsu guys. We had Fabio Prado who came in and coached jiu-jitsu, but we didn't have a head coach. Like we were our own coaches. And Faber always called it a co-op, and it worked well for a long, long time with everybody because we knew what each other needed, and we were honest with each other, and we helped each other. And, on top of that, we all got along really well, and we all went out, did everything together. Every time we went out, if one guy was fighting in Vegas, we would all go to Vegas. Like there's nothing like that nowadays. Like I don't know any team or anybody that does things the way that we did things at Alpha Male, but that was like, it kind of ruined the experience for me after Alpha Male because when I moved back to Ohio, because we wanted to start a family, be closer to home, things like that, I started training out in Vegas, and I have great friends, great coaches there. And as well as New Jersey, great friends there, like Frankie Edgar and Eddie Alvarez and Coach Mark Henry, Ricardo Almeida, all these guys that are really great people, but there was no like dynamic like we had at Alpha Male during its peak years. And so like now it's more of like just a business of where like, you train, you got your friend, like a couple of your friends you train with, you got your coaches that you're really tight with and you trust. But back then that was like, it was like a brotherhood. Like everybody was for everybody. Nobody was like secretly, hoping you lose or anything crazy. Everybody was like, if you win, we all win. You lose, we all lose. It was special. And I mean, that was like Faber knows that there's never been anything like that since then. Or, it was like us versus Novo and Yao for the longest time, like us versus Dominic Cruz. Like there was always like us versus them. There was never like one guy fighting, like until the whole like TJ and Cody thing of like TJ leaving and then him fighting Cody. Like that's kind of when things started like being a little weird with the team. Just for certain guys, or like, guys like for me, like I never had a problem with either of those guys. And I understood a reason why, TJ wanted to go and be with Dwayne Ludwig because that was like his main coach. And, the way he went about it could have been different, I guess, or whatever, kind of Faber was pissed about it at first. But that engagement between everybody with the team, like that was kind of like the first time everybody was like, oh, what's going on here? Like that was the first time everybody's like, damn, this is weird. Because nobody really, like there were some guys like, oh man, this guy, like, but we were all teammates. Like we were never like against each other. So like for me, like I've known Cody since he was probably 12 or 13. And like Cody's my boy. And also like TJ, I didn't know him as long, but like I'm cool with TJ. TJ actually took me under his wing, helped me out a lot when he got back from Ultimate Fighter, took me to Southern California to train with him a lot. I did a lot of stuff with TJ, like going out to Vegas to train for a week here and there. Like he helped me a lot. Like I tried to follow his blueprint a little bit as far as like training goes and like seeking out the best coaches or different coaches because we didn't necessarily have that at the time there. So yeah, teammate wise, like that was like 6 years of my life where I was like, man, this is like even a wrestling team was not that close as we were. And I was on some really close teams, like really good teams where guys were just like, we were all on top of the world, winning everything. And like the alpha male dynamic was just, it's like, it's hard to explain. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did Uriah ever give you some advice, or can you tell us like some sort of like interaction you guys had, some advice that he gave you that stuck with you, that really helped you, something that you haven't maybe discussed before, something that some sort of advice? Because we asked Cody the same question. He told
Yeah.
us some cool stories. I was just curious if
Yeah.
you inquired about any advice from him as well, Uriah Faber.
I mean, when I first started fighting, I took everything he would say and be like, man, this is the word. Like this is because he was so successful. I mean, still is, but like as a fighter, he was already so successful at that time, and I was just trying to get started. I didn't know the business side of it. I didn't know sponsorship side of it. I didn't know any like I didn't know how it all worked, and it was a bunch of different moving parts. And he seemed like he had everything dialed in how he needed it. And so the biggest thing that I think, I mean, there was many things, but a lot of things that he would be like so positive, it was almost like delusional. You know what I mean? Like the positivity was like just no matter the scenario, no matter what, like there was a will, there's a way. And he was so positive, it'd just be like delusional. And it was like, it's a kind of funny quote because I joke with some of my other buddies about it, but perception is reality. He would always say that. And I was like, man, that sounds so stupid. Like, yeah. But if you're delusional, your reality's fucked up anyway. So it's like, you know what I mean? Or your perception's fucked up. So,
Yeah.
but when you think about it, it's like your perception is your reality,
Right.
which is 100% true. But like when you first heard him say it, I'd be like, what the does that even mean? And I'm just like, I don't even know what you're saying, Faber. But like perception is reality, and then you like laugh and like jog away. I'm like, whatever, dude. But like you think about it, you're like, no, that's true. Like your perception is your reality because that's how you perceive things that are being thrown your way, or like, your perception of the world, or like how situations are being thrown at you. And I guess that was like my main takeaway overall else, because the older I get, the more I realize like that is true, because I can perceive things a certain way. Like I've just had a couple talks with my manager the last couple weeks about a different deal, but it's not till next year, and not sure if it's gonna happen or not happen, whatever. And then we got on this thing of like disagreeing a little bit, just because he's like, oh well, you live in Ohio, you need to be training in Vegas, or you need to be training somewhere else full time, or this or that. And I'm like, dude, I live here. Like I can train here with some of the best wrestlers in the country. I got good jiu-jitsu guys who are like top 5 in the world. Like I have things I need here. I can go to Chicago and train with Mike Valley. Like I drove out there for the weekend, and I have areas I can go and just stay in shape and train. But so we were like disagreeing on a few different things, just talking back and forth, but also like I respect my manager, so I'm going to take his advice. And like, I'm coming off losses, things like that, like just real talk conversation. But also like I think of it as I'm like, man, like, is he trying to come at me, or does he care about me, or is it what's he want? What's he saying? You know what I mean? Because I know he cares for me. Like I've been with this dude since 2015. I've helped him get some other guys like Cody and some other guys that are underneath him now. And I'm just like, if I didn't trust the dude, I wouldn't tell people, hey, sign with this guy. Like he's helped me out. He's done things for me, and he's a great person. He cares about you. But perception is reality. And I thought about that after I had this call with my manager the week or two ago, and I'm like, God, that's so stupid, but it makes sense. Like it's like
It's like it's deep, but it's right in front of you. So
It
it's
is.
like it's right there.
Yeah, you're like,
You know?
dude, that sounds so dumb. You know what I mean? Like
it
if you
makes
think
sense.
about it that way, but it makes sense because it's true. Like it sounds dumb because like, oh, perception's reality, man. And it's just like, yeah, no, you could be like you could be in the nut house, and that could be the perception of your reality that way too.
Yeah.
But it's like that when you take it in the right way, you're like, yeah, it's right. Like it sounds right. Like this is like I can perceive my reality however I want. I can use it negatively or positively, or I can use it to grow. And I'm just like, man, like you can go down a rabbit hole with just that little saying. But like nowadays more than ever is when I really like think about it. And I'm like, man, that's like, especially having kids and a family now, I'm like, man, it definitely like makes sense. It just sounded dumb at the time, or like just sounded like something that he just like said for no reason. And I'm just like, dude, what an asshole. But now I'm like, oh,
Put
dude.
your words together.
Yeah, exactly. Because sometimes they'll say something, and we're like, the. But like when I think of that, I'm like, we did joke about him saying that, but like it's like real when you think about it. You're like, yeah, it's true. Like you perceive your reality however you choose. Do you want to perceive it in a way that like helps you positively, or do you just want to like, be negative about it, where like everything's not going your way or whatever? Like you choose your route and your destiny with it. So that's kind of how I started to look at it, and it's like actually makes sense now.
Yeah.
No,
Did he essentially like kind of get you started in MMA? That's kind of
Yeah.
that sounds like he basically recruited you for MMA, right?
Yeah.
And
So
that's your career started.
yeah, so I was a sophomore in college at the time of this conversation with Mark Coleman. He came in the room. He hadn't been in the room very much, but he came in the room my sophomore year of college, and he was like, this was like 2007, 2008. And he was like, Palmer, I mean, you guys know, like Coleman's a sicko. And he's like, Palmer, your wrestling, like your aggressiveness, like you need to be a fighter, man. He's like, you just got to fight. He's like, that's like that ground and pound of wrestling, like your top control, like he literally just like sold me on it. And I was like, yeah, whatever, dude. Like, cool. Like you got this old crazy guy from 1990. Like he was he was a fighter. He's just, you see this guy come in the room all crazy eyed, bald dude, cauliflower.
House.
Yeah, hammer house, full line. I'm just like, and I'm like, all right, well,
like
cool.
NWO, baby.
But he's like, dude, I'm like, this guy's an Ohio State legend too.
Yeah,
So I
First
fucking
UFC champion ever.
And,
Yeah,
and Ohio State.
exactly.
And he was a coach there, right?
Yeah, so I'm like, man, this guy is like telling me to start fighting. Like, I'm like, I don't know if he's gonna try and fight me right here in practice or what. Like, I'm like, dude, because Coleman, like he's settled down now a little bit, but back then he was just like one of those dudes, like you don't know if he's gonna just start swinging on everybody or what. Like, and that was like before I knew much about fighting either. So I'm like, I don't know what's going on, dude. I'm like, are we gonna have to call the police on this guy? It's like,
This is the wrestling room?
yeah. Like we were in practice. He like came in to like speak to us.
So
before
did he know
practice.
you who you were because of your wrestling pedigree then?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, he knew of me. Like he knew of me, and he knew like my background, my high school wrestling, all that. But like Mike DeSabato is another guy. Like the DeSabato brothers are really close with Coleman. So me and Mike had been tight for a long time, and Mike was sponsoring Faber at the time with his Cage Fighter clothing brand. And so that was how the connection came about between like me, Coleman, and me and Faber. So like it was either Coleman like called Faber, Coleman talked to Faber or something, and was like, man, Palmer like needs, you got to get this guy out there with your crew, like that. Like, and DeSabato kind of helped out, but like that was like how like how it blossomed a little bit, because I was just gonna get into coaching. Like I did one season after college at Virginia Tech as an assistant coach, and I still love coaching. I would love to coach at Ohio State, when I'm done fighting. Like just because it's like that was where I went to school. Like I have like a good place in my heart with Ohio State, and it's close to home. Like that's where I would love to, bring all these young studs coming up. I would love to help there. So that was kind of like coaching has kind of always been my thing. Like even though I love fighting, like I know there's an end to it. So going back to that, like I was like, man, like this guy, like he coached at Ohio State for a while. He fought, like he kind of like had a similar path of like I want to go out there and be a like him. Like they were in the pre drug test days, and I'm like, man, these guys are psychos. Like you watch their fights, they're like,
Oh, dude.
like what are these
I mean,
guys
his is
snorting
tough,
before?
dude.
Yeah, like it was.
Afterwards, he's like, what the f-?
Oh, I know, just fighting the ref and everybody. I'm like, hell yeah.
I'm like, oh,
Yeah, I'm like damn. But like now that it's like it's such a different sport now, it's like that. But like he was the pioneer for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that was like kind of like the condensed version of like how I got into the game, like with Faber and Team Alpha Male. Like those guys are like they're always going to be family to me. I still talk to a lot of those guys, like even if it's just Instagram message or text or whatever, like, or I'll see them when I'm training in Vegas. They'll be in town because Danny Castillo, Chris Holdsworth, Faber, they're always in town because they're coaching now.
right.
So they're the coaches. So it's like the next generation of guys now is fighting there and they're coaching.
Guys, let's cut to the chase. I made an ebook. It's got over 700 methods and strategies to build your YouTube channel, to get views. It actually works. I made this because over the 3 years prior to this podcast, I bought all the courses, spent thousands of hours watching all these YouTube videos, and none of them actually give you any information. This ebook has 700 plus secret strategies and methods that only top YouTube influencers use. I promise it works. Money back guarantee. Trust me, go buy it now. Half off.